I'm really excited for this next section because I get to just spend 20 minutes talking to one of my favorite people in the world. Tara is on our team, and she is an amazing colleague, coworker, mother, wife, and she is going to talk to us about extreme ownership at home, because we know that everything we're teaching you guys is immensely impactful in your work, but it's even more impactful at home. And it's also much more difficult at home. So we're going to talk to you guys about our experiences, and the examples that we're going to talk about are primarily going to be with our spouse and with our kids, but everything we're going to talk about, every principle and all the content we're going to cover can absolutely be applied to any relationship that you have in your life, not just a spouse, not just kids. Whether you have parents that you're caring for, or an aunt in your life, or a friend even who you struggle with but you care about deeply and you want to implement these principles to make that relationship better. So I'm going to let Tara introduce herself, and just a reminder, we are both moms. We actually both have young kids. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, and I also have a husband, Hunter. So if you hear us refer to our kiddos and our husbands, that's my side of it. But Tara, why don't you tell everybody who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Who I am. So for the first decade of my career, I did wildland firefighting. And while I was out swinging a Pulaski, digging in the dirt, eventually moving myself into dispatch, I met a really significant person who became the co-CEO of what is now known as Team Bandor. And we've grown from a team of 2 to now 4 with our 2 kiddos, Benjamin and Hannah, who are 5 and 3. So my husband and I reside in Oregon. We hang out up in the Pacific Northwest. Anyone else? I know there's a few.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. We're in the same time zone finally. So we're up in the Pacific Northwest, just living our best life. I've been with Echelon Front for 4 years, mostly supporting on the back end with our long-range clients, but it's been the honor of a lifetime to be a part of this team and to take the principles that I'm so fortunate to work with every day in my professional life into my house.
Yeah, she's a rock star, by the way. Like, all the ladies that work for Echelon Front behind the scenes, they're all amazing, and she is just a great representation of everyone on our team who just gets after it every single day. So I want to start by asking you this, because I know that a lot of us recognized later, after we learned these principles, after we read the book, oh yeah, like, these are the things that made me successful early on in life. I just didn't have a name for them. I couldn't describe them the same way that Jocko Willink described them in the book so well. So what are your first memories of applying the principles outside the workplace, even before you knew what they were called?
Yeah, so if I've got my timeline right, Extreme Ownership came out in 2015, which is the same year that I got married to my husband. And so when I was thinking about this question, I was reminded of a conversation my husband and I had when we were living up in Portland. There was some city ordinance that was taking place around the regulations of drone use within city limits. Very random story, I know, but bear with me. And I had a really strong opinion about drones being used in the city, and my husband had a slightly different opinion about drones being used in the city, and I don't know if he just caught me at the wrong time, but I was getting really frustrated with him and the fact that we were not agreeing on this, and our conversation started to escalate. And what we realized throughout the course of that conversation became something that I've been able to lean back on since I've learned more about these principles of leadership. He doesn't get particularly heated, but he likes to see a conversation come to its full conclusion and a resolution, really. I'm kind of the opposite. When I get really, really worked up and emotional about something, I tend to I want to shut it down. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I need to detach. But I didn't know what that was called. I just knew that for me it was, I'm done. I'm done talking about this. I need 15 minutes. I'm gonna go do something else. And that would almost cause friction in and of its own right. But what I've come to learn since being involved with these leadership principles is that was my way of saying these are my red flags. I'm getting so emotional that I want to say unkind things to you about the fact that we disagree on city ordinance related to drone use, which is a very ridiculous thing for us to fight about. This doesn't matter, but here we are. Yeah,
it's how all of us, I think, in this room can relate, even if we don't have a spouse, to getting so worked up about something so dumb. So dumb. there's endless examples I can think of with my husband of, or especially early in our marriage, of just being so worked up about, how do you see that, like, how do you not agree with me about this? Like, this doesn't make any sense. But yes, that's absolutely, detachment is key to that. It's key to not get worked up and to remember that we're on the same team, right? Like, there's no reason for us to be at odds with each other and lose leadership capital over something so trivial. So it's great that you guys were able to figure that out early on. But now that you know what these things are, and you can kind of look at all these problems in your life through that lens of leadership, what are some things that maybe you hadn't figured out yet that have now been the hardest thing for you to go try to implement to try to improve your relationships and your family life?
Yeah, so this might come as a surprise to the ladies in the room. My husband actually has never read the book, Extreme Ownership, despite the fact that I've worked here for 4 years. I think in a lot of ways he feels like he's read the book because I've pretty much told him about it cover to cover multiple times and in great detail. So we share this common language. He knows what I'm talking about when I use these words like the laws of combat, like cover and move and simple and things like that. But one of the places where it always comes up for us, one of the places where it's really difficult for us, and I was speaking to some ladies at lunch about this earlier, was when we drive anywhere. So I'm from Oregon. We are very nice. When we stop at four-way stops, we wave each other on. Oh, no, you go.
Yep, just like in the South.
Yes. My husband grew up driving near Chicago, and he is a far more aggressive driver than I am. He's a far more emotional driver than I am, and typically he drives. And I will get so frustrated with him when he's driving, and he gets frustrated with other people. I catch myself being like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so angry that somebody, is driving too close behind you? Just get out of the way. Just anything to bring the temperature down in the cockpit of this car. But he will get so worked up and so emotional, and I have to fight that urge in my complete and utterly justified self-righteousness to completely alleviate this situation with some sort of smart quip, like, why don't you just calm down?
Do you feel better now?
Do you feel better now? Did you get it out of your system? And so knowing that this language is the same, we understand these leadership principles, we know what to do, and he'll still get really emotional, and I will still get really self-righteous, and I'll still say the thing that I know isn't gonna help that situation. And I think everybody falls into this trap in our home lives and in our home relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the easiest place to let your guard down, right? These are supposed to be the people that you have the best relationships with, the strongest with, you can be the most yourself with. And a lot of times what that translates to is it's the people we treat the worst. It's the people we unload on unfairly. It's the people that we don't give grace to. It's the people that we don't do this. I cannot tell you how many times we have people coming up and asking us about, hey, how do I do this at home? When they literally can implement this correctly at work, but they can't do it at home because it's just so much harder. Our emotions, our ego are so much more wrapped up into those people on the home front with us. I do the same thing with my husband, right? Like he gets mad about something that I think is dumb. I'm like, why are you so mad about this right now? Like, this is so dumb. And it almost is like, I'm kind of like embarrassed. Like, why are you acting this way? And so I don't help the situation. I either ignore it or, like you said, like I make some smart comment and it just does not help whatsoever. But what about with your kids? Like, do you see, like, what's some hard things to implement with your kids?
I'm sure that I'm the only one in the room whose kids listen every time that I give them directions, the first time that I give them directions, especially at the tender ages of 3 and 5. So this is, I think, and I'll also, I feel like I'm probably the only one in here that's also never yelled at my children, in case you're not picking up the undertone of complete sarcasm. My son has selective hearing in the tone of my voice, so I might tell him to go put his clothes away that I've washed and folded for him. Please go put your clothes away, Benjamin. He continues tinkering with his Legos. Benjamin, go put your clothes away. Did you hear Mama? Get a little read back. Still sitting there tinkering with his Legos. And after 3 or 4 times of repeating myself, I am now yelling to go put your clothes away. And I have to catch myself in that moment and remember, what is it that I'm trying to teach him here? Am I trying to teach him that it's most important that he listens to what I say and that he allows me to lead him to his dresser to put his clothes away? Or do I have an opportunity here to teach him something better? Which in that case usually comes in the form of what our good friend, or at least she's not really my friend, but I love her book. Dr. Becky wrote Good Inside. She talks about repair, where I'm pulling my son aside and I'm saying, hey, buddy, it's really frustrating for me when you don't listen and you don't put your clothes away. It's also not okay that I yelled at you. And so it's really important that I'm coming back to him and I'm showing him I got to own the fact that I let my emotions get the best of me, and I want to make sure that you see that I'm a human too and that I make mistakes, and I want you to take that lesson forward here.
Yeah, that is so hard.
That's so hard.
That is so hard, because especially with our spouse and with our kids, I feel like ownership is one of the hardest things for us to do, because it is so much harder for us to recognize our fault in that, especially with kids, right? Because you're like, I'm the mom. Like, you should listen to me. That is absolutely what should be happening right now. And yet, it's actually my job to take ownership in that situation, because that's the best example I can possibly set for them. So, pulling on that thread a little bit, when we slip up like that, or when we get into these arguments or these situations with our family where we're really struggling to take ownership of something, because we can sit up here all day long and talk about, hey, this is what you should do, but it is super hard. So what do you do when you can't figure out how to take ownership of something, whether it's with your spouse or your kids? What works for you?
I think I'm not alone in the process of I call a friend. Especially if it's something that my husband is my closest trusted advisor. There's nobody in this world that wants what's best for me more than he does. But what about when he's the problem? Or when we're having a problem and I'm struggling to see how, whether it's something that I'm doing to contribute to it, or it's something that he's doing that I feel like I'm nagging him and it's just this festering problem, I'm gonna call a trusted agent. But most importantly, and the thing I really wanted to linger on with this subject, was not only the trusted agent that I call, but the trusted agent that I want to be. And that's really important for me, that my trusted agents know what my mission is. And I think we've covered a little bit in the last couple days about the ladder of alignment. At the very, very top of that ladder, that mission that my husband and I are trying to accomplish together for our family, my trusted agent doesn't need to know every detail of that, but they need to have the general idea of where my husband and I and our 2 kids are trying to go, so that when I call my friend Corey and I say, Jared's driving me nuts and I've been nagging him about this for months and I can't find my way out of this. I've tried the framework, I've tried this, I need your help. Corey's going to do what the best girlfriend is gonna do. She's gonna reflect that back to me, she's gonna diminish those emotions, and then she's probably gonna ask me first, do you want me to help you? Do you want me to help you fix this? My answer is gonna be yes. And my trusted agent is gonna walk me through solving this problem with me so that my husband and I both win. Because there's no world where I win and he loses. If I win, he should be winning too. And if he loses, then I am also losing.
Yeah, then you're married to a loser. Who wants that? Yes, I love this idea of a trusted agent. And I think we've mentioned this a couple times throughout these 2 days, but a trusted agent is really like that person who you know you can go to, who's not gonna share your business with the world, but also is gonna actually give you good feedback. They're not gonna sit there and just rah-rah you and tell you you're right and your husband's terrible. Like, this is a person who's actually gonna help you fix this problem, and know that your end goal is that you guys figure this out and come to a place of alignment together. And for me, this was a struggle that Hunter and I had early in our marriage, where he's a very private person and he struggled a little bit with me talking about our marital problems with other people. And so I'm saying all this to say, don't have a trusted agent your spouse doesn't know about, right? Like, you guys should be aligned on who those people are, what you're okay with them talking about, why that's so important, and have those people in your lives that you can turn to get support. That's Cover and Move. That's what those good relationships you're building are for, is not just with your spouse so they can help you when you're in that situation, but also with other people who can help you and you can lean on in those times where you need the support to get through something with your spouse in a way that is effective and not creating more toxicity in your marriage. So that's been really helpful for us to establish those boundaries of who is he comfortable with me talking to and why I'm doing that, and he is absolutely on board with that now and understands the value of it now that I don't nag him every 5 seconds about things that don't really matter.
He says, can you just go call Tara?
Yeah, go call Tara. So this is super helpful, and I think trusted agents are important. I still think, though, even sometimes when we have those trusted agents, we still, I know that I personally have experienced this. I know everyone in here who has a spouse probably has, is that endless cycle of the same argument, the same frustration over and over again that I can't seem to get out of. And even though I've gotten some perspective from others, I've tried some new things, it's still happening. Do you have any other thoughts on other things that have worked for you guys to get out of that cycle?
Get stuck. I mean, there was a young lady from this conference yesterday who came up and asked a question that just pulled on my heart. And I think you're in that same boat because our kids are not much older than hers are. I believe she said they are 1 and 4. And that, I think for me, especially after I had my first son, I felt like Jared was not doing anything. And I felt like he would ask me all of these stupid questions about bottle feeding or breastfeed, all these questions that I was like, I was not wired with this. I Google it.
Yes,
you're
amen.
Welcome.
Amen to the Googling.
You're welcome to Google it too, rather than asking me this question over and over again. And that sensation of resentment, it didn't build too terribly much. I think largely because I started noticing in some of the women around me who were going through something similar, that was a really common theme. That was a really common sentiment, and it was a place that we were all getting stuck. We were getting stuck in this feeling of, I do everything. I'm the one that's coming up with the plan and the solution, and I'm packing everything, and I'm thinking of the next size up for the baby, and I'm taking them to their doctor's appointments. And it feels like that season continues well into their young years as well. And so if we're all getting stuck there, then what can we do differently to break through that phase of motherhood, that phase of nagging, that phase of unresolved tension? And I think about what I would want from my husband is for him to ask me what he can do for me. But I can't make him ask me that. I can't control him. I can't say, you should ask me what I want you to do. Because honestly, one of the things, and I'm sure the moms can relate, one of the things that drives you nuts is that they ask you what you want them to do instead of just doing it. But if I flip that script on, I'm over here doing everything, and all I see is myself, and my ego is just sitting here fueling this self-righteous cycle of he's never doing anything, he's not contributing, he's not helping. And I try to completely flip that script, and I say, is it possible for a second that he feels exactly the same way, but he's thinking about a totally different suite of tasks that he's doing, and I don't see them? And so I might approach my husband, and I might say, what can I do to make your life easier? What am I missing? How am I failing? What can I do to be better? And try to open up those lines of communication so that we can have a more productive conversation about the labor of our household, and we can think of ourselves as the team that we are. I know there was a table I sat with at lunch today where we talked about the ultimate team. And you're not always doing the same thing. You know, for a basketball team, for example, your point guard and your post have 2 very different roles on a basketball team, but the mission is the same. We're trying to score more baskets than the other team, but our roles in doing that are very, very different. And the point guard's probably not going to be a very good post, boxing out the really, really tall folks down under the basket. So I try to lean into those strengths, and I try to really flip that script, just approach this from a completely different angle, because the perpetual cycle of resentment and turning internal to my own ego is not going to work.
Yeah. Family is that ultimate team, and I love that idea of flipping the script and asking that question, because we lose sight of that perspective. We get so stuck in our own perspective, and our ego wants us to sit there and tells us that we're right, we're the ones who do everything. They can't possibly, like, I'm doing everything. There's nothing left for them to do. Could they possibly, need from me, more from me? But it really is a humbling question to ask, and it's also a way to set the example of maybe what you want too, and maybe eventually if you're consistent about that and you show up and you take action on those things, you might get that reciprocated. But the other thing I think about with that cycle and the resentment that person talked about yesterday, I was 100% there. Just like you, I went through that time in my life, and you were right there with me, helping me, supporting me through it. I was lucky to have you. And what I recognized was that it was my fault. I recognized that I was blaming him for all these things. I wasn't actually taking ownership. This is why I say it's so easy. It's so much easier to do this at work. I could all day long. I can see how everything that happens is my fault. It's easy for me to figure that out. And then when I look at him and I look at what's going on in our lives, I'm blind to it. I was just sitting in this victim mentality and blaming him for everything. And then when I started thinking about how I could take ownership of it, I realized I don't ask him for help when I need help. I don't talk to him about all the things that are going on and see how we can split up tasks. I don't explain why this thing is so important to me. I don't ask for a read back. I don't do any of this stuff. Like, this is 100% my fault. And that's so hard to swallow. That's so hard to tell yourself and to hear. But at the end of the day, as soon as I realized that, it's like everything changed. He didn't change necessarily, but my feelings about the situation started to change. Because when I would get angry about something, instead of blaming him, I thought, what can I do differently here? And when I realized that I had that control over the situation, again, that resentment started to slowly ebb away because I had control now. And I wasn't sitting there waiting for someone else to change. I was making changes that I had full control over. And that was really powerful for me. So you mentioned this ladder of alignment. We know that family's the ultimate team. We know we have to have that alignment. How do you guys create that alignment in your household so that you can have these kinds of conversations effectively and actually stay out of these cycles of resentment and having the same argument? Like, what works for you guys? How do you create that alignment?
Much like businesses, I know we've talked a little bit, I've heard a couple people make mention, I think maybe Sarah talked about like a business's mission statement. And sometimes that's just this massive word salad that doesn't mean anything to anybody. Nobody really knows what it is. But how many of us bother to sit down and align on what our mission is? What are we trying to accomplish as a family? What are my husband and I actually trying to arrive at the end of our lives? And for most people, that's gonna be pretty similar. You're probably looking at financial stability, you're looking at healthy relationships, maybe just maintaining a sense of humor throughout life, not taking yourself too seriously. But at that ladder of alignment, at the very top, you have this mission, this thing that we are aligned on, that we are trying to accomplish. And it's broad enough that everybody understands we want to maintain our relationships, we want a healthy financial future. Then when we get to arguments about drone ordinance in Portland, Oregon, which is very clearly on a scale of 1 to 3, 1 being the worst problem imaginable, that is like a 4 level problem. But if it's the only thing that's bothering me, if it's the only thing in our world that's causing friction, I will make it a level 1 problem. Just like everybody will make the dishwasher a level 1 problem. And I heard you when we were talking about dishwashers the other day saying that will become a level 1 problem. But I think knowing what that is and having that really intentional conversation, not just with your spouse, but with your kids as they get older, and knowing what that mission is, gives you that opportunity to be like, hang on, time out, does this matter? Like, does this really matter? Or are we just getting sucked into our emotions about this? Am I getting emotional about the fact that my husband and I don't agree on something and that bothers me? Or am I getting emotional about something because my teenager is a direct reflection of me out in the world and that bothers me because I don't like what they're doing, or I don't like what she's wearing, or how he talked to that person? That's a direct reflection of me and I don't like it, but does it matter? Does it really, really come back to that ultimate mission that we are aligned on?
Yeah, that alignment is so critical, because I think if we can maintain that perspective, that's what I feel like alignment really gives us. If I can focus on finding alignment with you, then I'm focusing on where we actually do agree, and I'm not worrying about the places that we don't agree unless they are like mission critical. Ladies, for those of you out there who are single and dating, you should probably make sure you're aligned on some basics with the person you're dating before you get married, just to make sure you don't have any catastrophic things down the road. But you do, for the most part, like if you're in this relationship, you've built this family together, you've built this life together, you can find alignment. Yeah. But it's just a matter of changing your perspective to try to find it. So as we wrap up, what has EO provided for you in your life?
I think in all aspects of life, I'm really fortunate to work with this team where this is our language, this is our culture. So certainly in my professional endeavors, but then also at home, I feel with my ultimate teammate, I feel unstoppable. I feel like we have the secret sauce that will allow us to solve any problem that comes our way, that will allow us to climb any mountain that is in front of us, because we have these tools, and they're not overly specific, they're not overly tactical, like you have to do this specific thing when this specific thing happens with your kid, and somebody had mentioned earlier, but my kid is different. it's a suite of principles, it's a suite of mindsets and behaviors that we can enact in our life that make me feel like I have control over things even when they otherwise may seem outside of my control.
I love that. Extreme ownership gives us control in all aspects of our life. Thank you.